Hey YouTube, welcome to this, the first in a set of videos dedicated to iPhone photography, sometimes called iPhoneography. This set of videos is basically going to be me talking about my experiences of becoming an iPhone photographer, essentially. Deciding that the iPhone was my main camera, the journey that I took to get there, the decisions that I made, the research that I did, all that kind of stuff. So if you are interested in iPhone photography, whether you're a beginner or experienced, please, stay tuned, check these videos out. Hopefully they'll be semi-useful to you. So basically there's going to be some reviews of kit that I've bought for the iPhone to enhance the photographic capabilities of the phone. The good, the bad, and sometimes ugly accessories that I have bought. I've made a couple of mistakes, and I will share those with you. Hopefully they will help you make a decision. Thankfully I haven't spent a fortune on stuff. This is kind of like budget iPhone photography, but you still want good results. I don't have a lot of money to spend on kit. I'm not a pro photographer by any means. I'm a hobbyist photographer, but hopefully this set of videos will help you out a little bit. I'm going to talk about the apps that I use, that I've discovered, the kit that I use, and then ultimately how I sort of edit my photos and all that kind of stuff. Basically, my photography is done, I don't want to say on a budget because that makes it sound, that it's crap. What I wanted was a good photographic solution, something that would give me at least A4 prints that I could print out and frame. But I wanted to do it, without it costing a fortune. I didn't want to spend hundreds of pounds on Photoshop and Lightroom and all these other tools. I do have Photoshop. I've got an older version of Photoshop, number 8, and I think it's on 13 or 15 now. And Photoshop has its uses, but you don't need it for most photographs unless you want to get into really funky stuff. And I will describe some of the software that I've got that's inexpensive. You can do all this essentially for free, but if you want to put a little bit more money in it to make your life a little bit easier, that's the kind of route I went down. I don't need the full power of Photoshop and Lightroom and all that kind of stuff. I'm not shooting weddings and all that kind of stuff. I'm a hobby photographer who likes taking pictures. I've got a certain style that I like, and I have some tools, both software and accessories for the phone, that allow me to do that. So I'm going to start with a little bit of background on the journey that I took to the decision of becoming an iPhone photographer. There are quite a few videos out there on YouTube and blogs and all that kind of stuff about iPhone photography and smartphone photography in general. And most of this stuff applies to other smartphones, but I'm an iPhone user, so that is my tool of choice, and that's why this is primarily focused on the iPhone. Some of the apps are available for Android and Windows Phone and all that kind of stuff. I don't know about that. I don't have an Android or Windows Phone. I have an iPhone. So that's what my experience will be shared with you. So basically how this all came about. I've had an iPhone since the 3GS, and I loved how easy it made photography. It was a point and shoot camera always in your pocket. And back in the days of the 3GS, the photographs were pretty good quality. It was nice and easy, and it was always, like I say, just nice and easy, really. That as smartphone photography has kind of progressed, the cameras in these phones have become a lot better. They've become faster. There's more features in them. The quality is a lot better. So I've always had an iPhone, and I've always enjoyed taking snapshots on it. I wouldn't have considered it as my main camera, because at the time it really wasn't good enough to do sort of landscape shots and all that kind of stuff. Sort of a step above snapshots. I don't want to say professional photography, but you know, going out and taking artistic shots of landscapes and architecture and all that kind of stuff. The phone would do it, but you know, it would still be a kind of snapshot. So for years, the iPhone was my point and shoot camera. You know, just if I saw something, phone in the pocket, boom, quick photo, job done, great. And I had a Fujifilm F6500D, I think it was called. And it was a 6 megapixel bridge camera. So that kind of hybrid between point and shoot with lots of manual controls on it that was edging towards sort of DSLR territory, but wasn't the same quality as a DSLR because it didn't have the same optics and sensors and all that kind of stuff. So for years when I went out and took photographs, it was the Fuji that was my main camera. And I used to go, you know, around Edinburgh and all that kind of stuff and take photos of Edinburgh. I'm from Edinburgh originally. So I used to go and take photos of Edinburgh, all the kind of sort of good photographic spots up Calton Hill and Princess Street and all that kind of stuff. And it was great. So that was my main camera for years. Now that unfortunately has sat in my cupboard now for 2 or 3 years. I kind of fell away a little bit from actually going out on photography days. You know, I had a couple of friends that we used to go out on occasion and actually go to a place with the purpose of taking photographs. So let's say I fell away from it a little bit, and the camera has sat in my cupboard. As I've started using my iPhone more and more as my sort of main camera. You know, you can get some really nice effects and all that kind of stuff from the camera. So fast forward a little bit, bearing in mind that my Fuji camera, my good camera, was in the cupboard. I've got an iPhone 7 Plus now, which is what I'm recording this on. And I'm just not long back from a trip to New York. It was a kind of holiday of a lifetime. It was for my wife's birthday. We went to New York, and you know, a good time was had by all. And I just, from a photography point of view, I loved it. I took 1,500 photographs in 4 days. You really can't get a bad photograph. You can point your camera anywhere in New York and get a good photo. But in the run up to going to New York, I knew that I was going to take lots and lots and lots of photographs. So I wanted to make sure, you know, we're not in New York every year or whatever, so I wanted to make sure that the photographs that I got were really good quality. You know, that I was going to be pleased with them, that I had that I had the tools with me to be able to kind of take the types of photographs that I wanted. So I considered my iPhone 7 Plus as my main camera to go to New York. But it worried me slightly because obviously the iPhone 7 or any of the iPhone series, no matter how good the camera is, it's not a DSLR. It's never going to be. You know, it's getting really good and it's getting really close to a lot of the functionality and a lot of the quality. It's never going to be a DSLR just through simple mechanics and optics. But I thought, you know, the iPhone 7 Plus. I bought the iPhone 7 Plus when I upgraded my phone. I bought it specifically because it's got the dual lenses. It's got the telephoto, which I know a lot of people say isn't telephoto because it's a 56mm equivalent lens, and it basically just sort of doubles up your view. But I bought that specifically so that it would be a kind of really good camera to have with me all the time. I wasn't convinced that it would be good enough to do justice to New York, to give me photographs that I was really happy with. You know, you still get quite a lot of noise in a lot of iPhone photos, depending on the light. You know, in lower light, sometimes it's pretty good. If you've got kind of mid light, or if it's really sort of dusky or cloudy, the iPhone can struggle a little bit. So I basically thought, right, I'll have a look at my Fuji, I'll dig that out, you know, 6 megapixel. Everybody gets kind of caught up in this whole megapixel thing. And whilst, you know, more megapixels is obviously giving you more density, at the same time, you know, my 6 megapixel camera for years was great. Because before that I had a 3 megapixel camera. So it's all kind of relative. You know, the camera that you have is just a tool that allows you to capture a photograph. And there's a famous quote that's, you know, said, everybody that's got a photo blog says it, you know, and I can't remember who actually said it, but, you know, this person said the best camera is the camera that you've got with you. And it's true. You know, if you don't have a camera and you see a great shot, doesn't matter. If you've got a small Polaroid and you see a great shot, you capture that moment and that's you. So it really is, you know, people get far too caught up on the specs and should I buy this lens and should I buy that camera, and you know, my iPhone's got 12 megapixel but my Android's got 18 megapixels or whatever, all that stuff. It really doesn't matter. Well, of course technically it matters, but you know, for years a 3 megapixel camera was a great camera and I was really pleased with the results. Before that I had film cameras that I was really pleased with the results, you know, so it's all kind of relative. So I considered my Fuji, but when I went back and reviewed some of the photographs that I'd taken in kind of lower light situations with the Fuji, there was quite a lot of noise, and that's a combination of the Fuji sensors, which it's kind of well known the Fuji sensors do have quite a lot of noise, especially in higher ISO and kind of lower light. So I thought, you know what, I'm not going to take the chance. Plus it's quite bulky. So I thought, I'm going to have a look, I'm going to treat myself, I'm going to do some research. I've always wanted a DSLR. This is the time to buy one. I'm going to, you know, I've saved up a bit, I'm going to take the plunge and buy a DSLR. So I started my reviews, you know, my research and all that kind of stuff. I looked at DP Photo Review, I looked at loads and loads of websites, Jessups and all that kind of stuff. And I was looking at two kind of cameras. I was between a Canon and a Nikon, or Nikon, whatever you want to call it, Nikon. It was a Nikon D3400 and the Canon EOS something, wasn't it the 1300, it was up from that, I can't remember. Anyway, the camera bodies and the lens kit that you got, which was just a sort of standard lens, wasn't telephoto or anything like that, and a few accessories and stuff. Both cameras were around about the £600 mark. And obviously that's a lot of money to pay for anything. But I thought, you know, you're going to get a DSLR quality image, you're going to get good optics, you're going to get the ability to shoot in RAW format, so you can you know, you can recover some of the data that's lost if your exposure's wrong, all that kind of stuff. So I was kind of quite into it, and I did a lot of research over, you know, 2 or 3 weeks. And you know, I thought, right, I'm going to do it, but I couldn't bring myself to click the button because I kept thinking about my Fuji. And I thought, you know, I could buy this DSLR, go to New York, take thousands of photographs, which would be great, you know, and I'm sure they'd be brilliant quality, and they would print, you know, at least A3 size, which would be great. You know, you could get some nice framed artwork of your own prints or whatever, that kind of thing. And I thought that would be great. But then, like I say, I kept thinking about my Fuji being in a cupboard, and I thought, do you know what? Realistically, I'm not really going to go out and do photo shoots, photo tours anymore on any regular occasion that would warrant the outlay of buying a DSLR. I would have got great shots in New York, and I would have taken it on holiday with me wherever we go and taking photos and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, I'm a hobbyist. My hobby doesn't warrant spending that amount of money, because, you know, once you're down the DSLR route, you've got to buy you know, a carry bag for it, and lens brushes and things to look after your lenses, to keep the dust out of them. You're investing a lot of money, you have to look after your kit, and then you start to buy telephoto lenses and, you know, wide angle lenses and all sorts of stuff, and before you know it, you've got this big huge hold all full of stuff, and it's cost a fortune, you know. So I thought, no, I'm not going to buy a DSLR. And I looked at many reviews and videos of professional reviews of the iPhone 7 Plus, because I thought, you know, I bought this phone primarily for the camera. You know, I love the iPhone functionality wise, I'm an Apple guy, but I bought this specific model of the iPhone at the time. It was, you know, it was when it was brand new out, I bought it specifically for the camera capabilities. So I thought, let's just do this, you know. So I had kind of made the decision as well when I went to New York. I'm really bad for seeing a whole holiday through the lens of a camera. You know, I'll take loads and loads of photographs, but never actually stop and look at stuff with my eyes. So I had kind of decided, look, I'm going to take my iPhone on holiday. That is going to be my go-to camera. I'm going to take photos in New York with my iPhone. And if they turn out brilliant, I'll be really happy. And if they don't, fair enough, I'll have some decent shots, you know, that might not be fully printable, you know, but I can edit them and recover them and all that kind of stuff. So I'll have something decent, but at the same time I had kind of decided that I was going to spend the holiday looking at stuff, as opposed to just being a photographer. So anyway, we went to New York, took the iPhone with me. I bought a couple of bits of kit to augment the functionality of the iPhone, which I'll talk about in a different video. But I went and put my faith basically in the iPhone. And I have to say, you know, long story short, spoiler alert, I was blown away by the camera and the functionality of the iPhone. I took, like I say, 1,500 photographs in 4 days. Obviously the storage is built into the phone, didn't need to worry about SD cards or anything filling up. I've got 128 gig iPhone. Plus, when I went back to the hotel, free Wi-Fi uploaded to the cloud, so I knew my photographs were safe. So that kind of part of the functionality was brilliant. The iPhone itself worked flawlessly. It never let me down. A few of the photos didn't turn out quite how I wanted, but that was because of the kit that I was using, not the actual phone. I had some lenses and things like that I'll talk about in a different video. But suffice it to say, the iPhone, it handled everything that I threw at it. I used a few different apps to enable me to get like raw capture and all that kind of stuff. And again, I'll be doing a video all about the apps that's on my phone. I'll be doing separate videos all about these things. But the captures that I got, I was really, really happy with. It handled, you know, primarily in New York, the light's great anyway, you know, it's always kind of sunny. So all that daylight stuff was perfect. I never had any issues. The iPhone has a slight tendency to overexpose, so it blows out your skies quite a lot, but as long as you are careful in framing your shot and, you know, counteract that exposure, then, you know, it's absolutely fine. So as long as you take into account how the camera works on the iPhone, and what it actually does, then, you know, your photos are going to be as good as you make them. I took photographs in Central Park, Times Square, where there's loads of bright lights always flashing and all that kind of stuff, but the buildings themselves are quite dull. I took photos at dusk. I took photos during the night. We went over to Brooklyn and took the classic Manhattan skyline and the Brooklyn Bridge and all that kind of stuff at night. Loads of lights, and all of them turned out great. There's a few kind of blurred out ones and all that kind of stuff, but you know, the great thing about having an iPhone or a smartphone or whatever is you take 5 or 6 versions of the same photo just to make sure you've got that snap. And you know, the screen as well, when you're reviewing your photographs, because I've got a tendency to do that just to make sure I have actually got the shot. You know, obviously it's backlit. You can see it beautifully in the dark. You know, it's not like some cameras and stuff. You might have a bit trouble seeing the screen to review your photos, and it's so fast compared to an actual camera. You don't have buttons to kind of, you know, zoom in and scroll up. You're doing the old pinch and zoom thing to check your photos. So yeah, I was really, really impressed with how the iPhone handled it. It was a workhorse. Really impressed with battery life and all that kind of stuff. So basically, the long and short of it is, if you have an iPhone 7 Plus or above, an iPhone 7 would be great as well. I didn't use the telephoto lens that much, so you know, maybe the 7 Plus is kind of overkill for you. But I would say an iPhone 7 and above, then if you are considering taking your phone as your camera, you know, you don't need any other cameras basically. The camera that's in your pocket is all you need to get great printable snaps. The iPhone photos that come out will print beautifully at A4, and most people have an A4 printer. They will, if you edit them right, you can probably get away with an A3 print. I don't have an A3 printer, so that's not going to bother me. Depends on the subject and all that kind of stuff, and your light and things like that. So you could probably push it to an A3 print. Any bigger than that, realistically, you know, you're going to get noise and artifacts and stuff like that. So it depends on what your photo is, and you know, whether you're being artistic with it and doing all sorts of funky stuff, or whether it's a straight sort of print. But yeah, I mean, I'm going to stop waffling now, but this video was just a sort of introduction to give you a bit of backstory about why I became an iPhone photographer, and why I love it, why I'm totally sold on it, and you know, I don't need any other cameras basically. And the tagline to take away from it is, like I say, if you are considering going on holiday and are worrying about, is your iPhone good enough to be your main camera to capture your memories from your holiday? Absolutely. You know, the thing shoots 4K video, for God's sake. You're not going to get a better camera than that. You know, it's if you took the equivalent DSLR and video camera to capture 4K video, and you know, you're going to have thousands of pounds worth of stuff in your bag, and you're going to have sore shoulders for carrying it about. You know, everybody carries their phone every day. You know, it's not going to weigh you down. So yeah, if you are considering it, I would totally recommend the iPhone for all your kind of holiday snap needs, and you'll be able to print out those memories, and it'll all look great. So thanks for watching. Please tune in and to the other videos that are coming up. You know, you can subscribe to my channel. This video is a little bit different from what I normally do. It's mostly kind of retro game related stuff that I do, but you know, feel free to subscribe, and you'll get notifications of any new videos that come out. Like I say, there's going to be follow-up videos on the cameras, the apps that I use, how to sort of get the best from your camera, the kit that I've bought, so lenses and various other bits and bobs that I've bought, good and bad points of those. So yeah, stay tuned, and hopefully you'll get something out of this. You know, let me know if there's anything you want me to cover, if you'd like to know anything about the iPhone photography or the kit that I've got, or anything, any aspects. And you'll see some of the shots. I'll put a couple of them up just after I stop talking, just to let you see the sort of quality that you get. Obviously, YouTube kind of compresses it a little bit, so it's not 100%, you know, what you would print, but I'll stick a couple of them up anyway at the end, and you'll be able to see the sort of quality that you'll get out your iPhone using a few different apps. I will say that I don't really use the stock camera app. I use it for snapshots, but not for sort of keeper shots, for the artistic shots. The only thing I use the stock camera for is video, because it's brilliant for that. So anyway, have a little look at these photographs. I hope you like them. Leave me some comments, you know, what you'd like to see, all that kind of good stuff, and I'll hopefully see you again soon.